Right, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, wherever you are in our wide world. Welcome to another NetHope webinar. My name is Seth Otto. I'm the Digital Communications Manager here at NetHope and producer of the NetHope webinar series. We're delighted to be joined today by experts from NetHope members, Save the Children International in Lebanon, a US-based nonprofit, data-friendly space, and a longtime partner of NetHope's and supporter of the broader NetHope community, AWS. Today, we'll be discussing how AI is transforming humanitarian work through Data-Friendly Spaces GANNET tool, supported by AWS's advanced cloud solutions. We will explore how AI enhances humanitarian efforts with real-life applications from Hurricane Beryl, the Sudan crisis, and the Lebanon crisis. Learn about the role AWS plays in ensuring GANNET's scalability and reliability, and we will also explore the potential for GANNET to be deployed in addressing global crises. But let's go over a bit of housekeeping before we get started. First off, let's make this webinar interactive. Thank you very much for engaging with us in the chat. Please continue to do so and let us know what comes up for you. Post your comments and questions in the chat window, and the presenters will address them during our Q&A and discussion period towards the end. In the hours following the webinar, please pay attention to your email. We will be sending you a follow-up that includes links to the webinar recording, the slides, and any of the resources that we shared during today's presentation and discussion. And we value your feedback. Your opinion matters to us. And we use your responses to our survey to improve this webinar series for you and our broader NetHope community. It also provides presenters with an opportunity to connect with you if you want them to. So at the end of this webinar, a new tab or window will open in your browser with the survey. And with that out of our way, I would like to hand things over to Naid Orozco sorry, Naid. and get out of your hair. So take it away, Naid.
Thank you, Seth, and thank you for the warm introduction. Also, thank you, NetHope, for the opportunity. And thank you all for joining us today. Let me share my screen very quickly, and we can start. Perfect. Can you confirm that you can see it now, please?
Yes, it looks great.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so welcome again, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Before we dive in, let me introduce myself. My name is Najid Orozco. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Data Friendly Space, currently in Medellin, in Colombia, visiting Medellin for the UN World Data Forum, and happy to be here with you all today. I'm honored to introduce my co-presenters today. Miriam Sakal joins us from Save the Children International. Miriam, over to you for a quick intro.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be with you. This is Miriam. I'm the Research, Monitoring, Evaluation, Accountability, and Learning Manager with Save the Children. I've been with Save the Children for more than 4 years now, and I have experience in the meal for almost 8 years. I've been collaborating with Data Friendly Spaces on the subject that we'll be presenting today. So I'll be happy to share with you our experience as Save the Children using this software. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. And we also have today Ariana Bergman from AWS. Ariana, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naid. Hi, everybody. Really great to be here. My name is Ariana Bergman. I am a solutions architect at AWS based in New York City. I support various organizations in the public sector as a technical advisor, guiding them on their cloud journey. One of those organizations is Data Friendly Space, who I had the pleasure of working with this past year. I'm really excited to be here talking to you all about this incredible team and the work they've done.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ariana. Okay, let's go to the agenda very quickly. Let me walk you through what we'll be covering today. First, I will provide an overview of Data Friendly Space and GANNET, sharing why we believe AI is crucial for the future of humanitarian response. And then Miriam will come and share a real-world case study from Save the Children. Ariana then will take us through the technology that makes this possible, showing how we have built a secure and scalable solution on AWS. And finally, we'll discuss how you can join what we call the GANNET movement and be part of this transformation in the humanitarian response. Okay, let's start. Data Friendly Space. We are a non-profit organization with a singular mission, and that mission is to provide digital tools and actionable data for social impact organizations to just get things done. Since 2016, we have been working at the intersection of both humanitarian response and technology, and currently we are the technical leads for DEEP, JAWS, IFRC Go, NEET Plus, and other platforms. Maybe some of you are familiar with them. And these platforms serve the humanitarian community. To truly understand why we have created GANNET and why it matters, let me share a story that happens every day in humanitarian operations around the world. So, as you all know, behind every humanitarian crisis, there is always a race against time, and basically is to turn data into action. So I will invite you now for just a second to picture this in your mind. So imagine that it's 10 p.m. and Sarah, what we call today a fictional character for today's webinar, it's a humanitarian data analyst. She has been working through the whole day. Now a new crisis just suddenly appeared, and her team needs a comprehensive situation analysis by morning. She is drowning in data, switching between dozens of browser tabs, scanning through reports, cross-referencing news and articles, and trying to verify the information that is coming. Time is running out, and the information she needs is scattered across multiple sources. This is not just Sarah's story. This is the reality for humanitarian workers worldwide. In fact, an experienced humanitarian data analyst spends approximately 90% of their time just searching and extracting data. And think about that. Imagine a 10-hour workday. That's 9 hours spent just looking for and gathering information, leaving only 1 hour for actual analysis and decision making. And here is the critical part. While Sarah is struggling to compile all this data, communities are in need of support and crucial decisions are being delayed. In today's world, where we have AI assistants that are the hype and appearing every other day, that can write essays and generate, let's say, art, our humanitarian workers are still manually putting together life-saving information from thousands of sources. This is the challenge that we are facing today in the humanitarian sector, and the sector, unfortunately, lacks user-friendly, trustworthy, and explainable tools tailored to the specific needs. This gap is a barrier and also impacts directly our ability to deliver timely and efficient humanitarian assistance to those who need it most. Then, why is Sarah's situation so common? And the reason, or at least one of the reasons that we see at DFS, is that because the humanitarian landscape has become exponentially more complex. We are facing crises that are more interconnected than ever before. We also have a massive scale of needs across multiple regions, growing funding gaps that demand, of course, more efficient resource use, increasing geopolitical complexity affecting our operations. There is always a critical need for real-time information to make decisions. And finally, the challenge of accessing and making sense of various data that is out there. If we see how the landscape is being transformed, yesterday, we were working with what, let's say, we call manual data collection. Imagine for a moment paper forms, Excel sheets, the response times back in time, but maybe in some places still today, is measured in weeks and not hours. Information, it's wrapped in silos across different organizations, and somehow there is a limited ability to scale the impact. Operations, of course, consume massive human resources and are labor intensive. Today, we have seen or we are seeing improvements in the sector, and we have access to digital data collection tools, cloud-based solutions, some basic automation, of course, better connectivity between teams, and this is just an example of it. We are all in different regions of the world just attending this webinar, and we can say that we are beginning that era of data-driven decision-making. But tomorrow, with GANNET, and not only GANNET, but other AI tools, our work will look very different. AI will power Sarah's, our fictional character analysis, turning potentially those 9 hours of data gathering into minutes. She will have real-time insights. The system will help as well predict emerging needs before they become critical. Information will flow seamlessly between all the stakeholders, and teams and her team will collaborate more effectively than ever before. And something just to remark here, this is not just about making Sarah's job easier, though it certainly will, but it's about transforming how quickly and effectively we can respond to humanitarian crises. It's about helping more people faster and more efficiently than ever before. Then GANNET appeared as our opportunity, and over the past year, we've made very good progress thanks to our partnership with AWS. In 2023, Data Friendly Space was selected as a recipient of AWS Go Farther and Faster Award through the AWS Imagine Grant Program. And I would say this wasn't just an award, it was the beginning of a transformative journey. Through this grant and through this last year, we have collaborated with AWS technical experts to build GANNET, implemented enterprise-scale infrastructure that now processes massive amounts of data. I will show you in a sec how it looks like today. Expanded our global accessibility, meaning that Sarah, again, this fictional character, and her colleagues can now access GANNET wherever they are working. We also integrated advanced AI capabilities that power our real-time analysis and insights. And doing so, we achieved what we call a cost-effective implementation. This partnership has been transformative. What started as a powerful idea on a small piece of paper for the application has become a working reality, and it's already making a difference in some of the humanitarian operations worldwide. Let me show you exactly what these transformations looks like in practice. Rather than just telling you about GANNET, I would like to show you the platform in action. So let me switch just to our light platform. Of course, because time is running in these sessions, I already prepared some, let's say, prompts just to explore, and I will explain you the interface. But before that, as I walk you through the key functionalities of GANNET, I want you to imagine that you are a humanitarian worker needing rapid insights for an emerging crisis. And please feel free also to think about your own use cases, maybe that you see fit as we go through the short demo. So the first thing that you will see once you log in into GANNET is this interface where, yeah, some of you probably will recognize as similar to other, I don't know, GPT, Claude, Perplexity interfaces. The reason behind that is that we didn't want to have another learning curve or a new learning curve for the users and just kind of onboard them and let them start using the tool as soon as possible. The first thing on the left, you will have the opportunity to explore two, let's say, big parts of the platform. The first one is start a new thread, as you are doing today with any of those systems. And the other one is explore data. Let me start with explore data. Once you click on explore data, you will be redirected to this dashboard where very, let's say, briefly summarizes or consolidates the information that is behind GANNET today. So you can see that we have, as of today, and starting from October last year, this is kind of the first day that we started bringing information from some trusted sources. We have already collected and processed more than 100,000 documents from more than 200 different sources. You will see as well here that almost 50% are it's coming from Relief Web of these different sources, but we also have other sources that are trusted. At the moment, at DFS, we are having this step where we are kind of curating those sources and incorporating them into the platform. Then you can see at any moment in time how many documents are being retrieved on a daily basis. We are calling it almost real time, which means we are updating the platform 3 times a day. And we are currently processing, for example, on November the 11th, we processed almost 500 documents or more than 500 documents. And yeah, this is the idea of the explore data, the dashboard, the functionality, just to allow you or allow the users to go and have a bigger picture. At any moment, you can just filter by country, by a specific date or period of time, and also for clusters. You will have also an option for the chart where you have the same data as a table. But then let's say the more interesting functionality will be the new thread. And just a couple of things that differentiate us to others is you can apply 3 filters to your search. The first one is you can select the publish dates of the documents that you want to include in your prompt. So let's say that you want to only focus on October 2024, you can select those dates. Then you want to be more specific, and you can select the countries that are being referenced in those documents. So you can also apply those filters. And then in terms of sources, you can also select, I just want to bring information, or the prompt, the query will be just bringing information from Relief Web or UN agencies or media. We are kind of defining these categories. And we are also, since this is a, let's say, iteration, we are always kind of looking for new ways of categorizing these different sources. Let me just jump to one of the examples. So we have, please summarize the latest events that have happened in Sudan during October 2024. Very broad prompt. You have the answer. At any moment, you can type in the prompt and it will give you the answer. It will take around today from 20 to 40 seconds. It depends on kind of, the number of sources, but also kind of the density of the request. And then you will get the answer. As of today, you will have the opportunity to look at the response and at the end, the sources that are being referenced or that were used, let's say, to build this response. So you will have the opportunity here to have the different sources. At any moment, you can copy the response, and you can also provide us feedback if the answer is not accurate. One more thing to mention, you will have the filters kind of overview here on the right, table of contents. This means that anytime that you are creating, let's say, or continuing your conversation with the virtual assistant or with GANNET, you will have the option to jump between the different prompts very easily in the table of contents. And bibliography, you will have all the sources that have been used for your conversation or your thread with the assistant. One more thing before going to another product that we're working on right now with GANNET is that we are and this is something that will be making available soon for all the users, is the citation functionality. In the citation, I mean, at the moment, you will have all the text, all the response, but just the sources, let's say, as a list at the end of the response. But what happens if you want to make sure that every single part of the response is being attached or linked to the original source? So this is, again, this is just in the development at the moment, in staging for testing purposes, but we are aiming to publish it hopefully by the end of the month. So you have the option to first hover over every single kind of citation. In this case, it will highlight the piece of text that refers to this source, then you can click and the interface will show you the statement and the sources that are being used for build that specific or where they are coming from. At any time, you can click on the source and you will be redirected to the original source. So with this, basically what we are assuring is that in the response, you have the certainty of having the information from the different sources and how they are coming. And let's say in a nutshell, this is GANNET. Very quickly, I mean, the invitation is for you to go and play. And let me now show you something that we're calling the situation hub. So since we have GANNET today as this, let's say, core tool where you can prompt or query and receive responses, we are now working on the situation hub. The situation hub is this product where we are building or generating automatic summaries and, let's say, reports for a specific context. So in this case, I'm showing you in collaboration with H2H, we are preparing the Sudan one, where you have the situation analysis. Based on an analytical framework, you will have the different pillars that are common in the humanitarian sector. And then for each of it, you can just click and select either the week that is being analyzed or the month if you want to kind of have a more consolidated overview. And then the summary will appear again with the sources that are being used for this specific matter. Then you can do the same for sectoral analysis, where you have main sectors. Something to highlight, this process is being at the moment overlooked or quality checked by DFS analyst, by our team of analysts inside, just to make sure that we are generating correct information and we are not kind of putting available something that is not right. And another functionality is the media monitor, where we are bringing information from the different sources, but also local media to see how the information is coming and where those specific locations are being mentioned, so the users can explore and see what are the news or the articles in a, let's say, more graphical way. So yeah, this is the situation hub. We are still kind of the early steps, looking for kind of feedback from users, and it will kind of keep growing in the meantime. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. And as we have seen, I mean, GANNET, it's already available and has the potential to transform how humanitarian workers interact with data. But what does this mean in terms of real-world impact? Let me put this into perspective. First, we are turning, or as we see it, we are turning days of work into minutes. Our users are now completing comprehensive analysis in a fraction of the time at a fraction of the cost, of course. Second, we are providing real-time insights across tens of thousands of data sources, as we have seen. Instead of struggling with dozens of browser tabs and countless reports, humanitarian workers can access consolidated and verified information instantly. Third, we are enabling as well organizations to start with insights rather than just raw data. This means that teams can focus on making decisions and taking action rather than spending the whole time just on data gathering and processing. And finally, we have built GANNET as well to scale, whether you're responding to a localized emergency or coordinating a multi-country response. The platform adapts to meet different humanitarian needs. In the previous week, we were talking about the forgotten crisis and how GANNET as well can support those small events that happens probably not the most media covered context. And since we are just ingesting information from different sources, GANNET can also support that. And something just again to remark, these aren't just features. What we consider is they are fundamental shifts in how we approach humanitarian response, and we are already kind of seeing some of those results in the field. But yeah, don't just take my word for it. I'm delighted to invite Miriam to share her experience with GANNET. Miriam and her team have been using GANNET in one of the most challenging humanitarian contexts we face today. And Miriam has been instrumental in implementing the tool. Miriam, please join me in sharing Save the Children's experience in Lebanon, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before I start speaking about GANNET use, I would just like to give an overview about Save the Children's response in Lebanon and how the situation was in Lebanon by the time we made use of the tool. So, as you know, since the start of the war in Gaza in October 2023, the war erupted in Lebanon as well. And since October 2023, the conflict has claimed the life of more than 3,050 lives, and we had more than 13,000 injured, with including 190 children, 50 of whom were killed in one single day. And starting September 2024, we saw as well an escalation in the war, which led to the displacement of over 1.2 million people, which represent 20% of Lebanon's population. Among them, we have 35% or 420,000 who are children. So as Save the Children, we had already been prepared to respond to this emergency. And since the onset of the crisis, we've been operating, but after the drastic escalation, we had to activate our emergency response team and our response plan to address the displacement movement happening in Lebanon. So just to give you an overview about the team's effort on the field, if you can stay in the same slide, please. We had reached around 150,000 people, and we have been operating in 298 shelters, and we've been providing services in all of the sectors, including wash, shelter, education, food security, livelihoods, in addition to CRG, which is the Child Rights Governance. So the situation has been drastic, and as a responding organization, we had to be on top of things. So this is where the key questions we had to think about is what are the key success factors for humanitarian response? First of all, usually any response that we have in the humanitarian world, it needs to be aligned with the community's need. And this is where usually organizations conduct needs assessments, they look for data available online, etc. Additionally, it's very important to have a solid response plan so that you can activate it straight ahead to be prepared before the onset of the crisis. And whenever we see such escalation, it's also crucial to secure the decent funding that aligns with the needs observed on the ground to be able to respond to the vulnerabilities that we can see. Additionally, one of the success factors in the humanitarian response is the advocacy messaging that we use for the key pressing issues, like, for example, asking for ceasefire or asking donors to focus on specific needs that you observe, for example, why to prioritize food security or waterborne disease response instead of other sectors. However, the challenges that we usually face, some of them were mentioned by my colleague before, are that humanitarian staff usually face a lot of information overload from various sources. So we want to collect the data and everyone says something. Sometimes the data is not always accurate and we need to look into it, analyze it, and gather it from multiple sources, which is very time consuming for the team working in a response setting. Additionally, we need to have this actionable insights because evidence is very crucial to build the action on it. And these are very important in our emergency setting, but time and accuracy remain a constraint that can impact our decision-making and the response time. So the faster we have the data, the more informed decision-making we can make, and the faster our response can be, especially at the onset of the crisis. Next slide, please. So the services that we benefited from GANNET were many. The collaboration has started a few months ago, and so far we were able to access the GANNET chatbot that was presented by my colleague. And Data-Friendly Space also helped us develop situation reports based on the data available. And we were also we have also developed a scenario planning for anticipatory action. So the situation reports, as like their name explains, they're reports that explain, like, for example, the situation around like, you know, the security concerns, the context, the various needs in the sectors, etc. Whereas the scenarios for anticipatory actions are scenario planning, like, for example, how do we expect the conflict in Lebanon to proceed in the upcoming year or so? Are we expecting, for example, a ceasefire, or are we expecting a further escalation? So based on these scenarios, we are usually able to plan our response planning. There are still two additional services that we are expecting from data-friendly spaces, which are the dashboard that my colleague presented. It's the Situation Hub. And we are also expecting a risk analysis that will help us like, you know, plan the mitigation measures accordingly. So how were these useful for us? The added value of these solutions were many. First, when it comes to MEAL, the monitoring, evaluation, and learning, instead of, like, you know, going to the field, collecting detailed data collection for the needs assessment, we were able to easily access the publicly available evidence for our needs assessment and complement whatever data we found on the field, especially that currently in Lebanon, because of the context, it's very difficult to collect data because of security concerns, because of access concerns. And this is why we heavily rely on secondary data. And GANNET was one of the solutions that facilitated this challenge for us. Additionally, we've been producing a lot of advocacy messages and briefs for the donors, the government, etc., to push for certain agenda points that are important to meet for the needs of the community. And this is where the evidence that was generated through GANNET was also backing up all of the advocacy messaging that we were providing. When it comes to proposal writing or designs of new projects as well, usually we need to back all of these things with evidence. And sometimes we are also asked to describe the context for the proposals. So we have big sections that require every time to detail what's the situation, what updates have occurred, what are the recent news that happened to back the logic of our project, or explain why we are operating in one area rather than the other. And this secondary data has also been useful for us to facilitate the work in here. Furthermore, as I mentioned, we recently received the scenario planning, and this scenario planning will be very useful for us now in the upcoming period to update our response plan and set in place the anticipatory actions to be able to properly respond to whatever scenario comes in place in the upcoming period. Next slide, please. I would also just like to highlight a few limitations that we have encountered. One of them is that just like any other AI-powered tool, we always need some human effort to validate the inputs because sometimes, for example, as Save the Children, we have a specific language that we use, certain words that we do not use. We have our do's and don'ts, which AI usually, like, you know, they rely on the secondary data available. So human effort is needed to adjust this language and as well to avoid hallucination and ensure accuracy of the data. This is a limitation that is, I think, in place for all of the AI-powered tool. Secondly, it's also like, you know, one challenge we face, or one limitation, is to ensure that we are having effective prompting to extract the required data. So, for example, if we were to develop the same situation reports that we were able to receive from data-friendly spaces, what prompts would we be asking the chatbot, and should the prompts be long or short? So these things were things to think about as a country office to be able to find the exact data that you are looking for. Finally, one of the limitations we had is that there's a limited number of prompts allowed per day. So far, we did not get to a point where we used all of our prompts per day, but this is also a foreseen limitation in the upcoming period for us, because if many teams will be using GANNET, like the meal, the advocacy teams, the awards, the management team, etc., we will need to have more prompts per day to ensure that we are receiving the data that we have. I can confirm for now that GANNET managed to make use of some of the local available data. So, for example, we managed to share with them the websites or platform of some of the media sources, and we are expecting in the upcoming period that the data that will be provided by data-friendly spaces will be also inclusive of those locally available sources to make it more accurate and relevant for us. So this is it as Save the Children, and happy to answer any question that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. And yes, at the end of the presentation, we have a space for Q&A. But thanks again for being here and also for sharing your experience so far with GANNET. And yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the work that you are doing there is making a real difference in Lebanon. So thanks. Okay. Very quickly, and being conscious of time, maybe you might be wondering how exactly are we making this possible? What's happening behind the scenes to transform this amount of data into actionable insights? So let me just take you what happens behind, let's say, the scenes. At its core, GANNET integrates what it's called an advanced retrieval augmented generation model, or known as RAG. Think of it as combining the best of two worlds, the ability to retrieve verified, accurate information from trusted sources, and on the other end, the power to generate clear contextual insights from that information. So you remember Sarah, our data analyst, imagine that when she asks GANNET a question, the system isn't just providing generic responses. Instead, it's searching through that kind of big or vast amounts of verified humanitarian data and finding the most relevant information and presenting it in a way that it's actionable for her. So very quickly before handing over to Ariana, this is a basic RAG system, and we have here this visualization with 6 steps. Let me just put them kind of in groups and explain it very quickly. First, this is how GANNET's process each query. So first, when a humanitarian worker, for example, asks a question, the system doesn't just search for keywords. Instead, it understands the context of what's being asked. Then it retrieves relevant information from our database of verified sources, chunks of information, including situation reports, needs assessments, real-time data feeds. But unlike traditional search systems, it just doesn't just match words. It understands, let's say, the context and the relationships. Then we go to steps 4 and 5. And this is where the magic, what we call magic, happens. It synthesizes all this information, create the context for enhance context for the query. And out of that, the foundational model, the LLM, synthesize this information into a coherent and accurate response. Finally, every response is grounded in actual data. And when GANNET tells you that there are X amount of people in need of assistance in a specific area, it can show you exactly where that number came from. So that was basically what I showed you during the demo. And this is essential for maintaining the trust and accountability in humanitarian operations. Now that you kind of understand how our RAG system works, I would like to invite Oriana, our solutions architect from AWS, to explain how we build this robust architecture and ensure it meets the requirements from humanitarian operations. And just to say, Ariana has been instrumental in building, in helping us architect GANNET on AWS and building tool, of course. And we are very thankful for her support. So Ariana, please share with us how we are powering GANNET behind the scenes. Over to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Naeed. So Data Friendly Space is a nonprofit like many of you. They used AWS to build GANNET, and I want to take a few minutes to dive into how they were able to do that and hopefully inspire other leaders such as yourselves to achieve your mission using AWS. Let's take a look at the AWS architecture, focusing on just a few key components. The first is Amazon Bedrock, which is the green icon towards the bottom right of the diagram here. And this service offers the easiest way to build generative AI applications with foundation models on AWS. Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service that provides a single API to access and use high-performing foundation models. A couple key features of Amazon Bedrock include model choice. So you have access to foundation models from various leading AI companies like AI21 Labs, Anthropic, Cohere, including Amazon's own models for tasks such as text generation, summarization, Q&A, and more. Another feature is customization. So you can customize these foundation models through various methods, including the way that Naeed has just described, using retrieval augmented generation or RAG, where you can enrich the FM's responses with the relevant data from your company's knowledge bases. Another component to the application is the data. So we've heard from Naeed and Miriam about the challenges of data silos and needing a way to turn these data into actionable insights quickly. To enhance the performance of the foundation models, DFS is ingesting data from relevant sources, storing it in a data lake, and feeding it into their RAG architecture. AWS provides various services to build end-to-end modern data solutions in the cloud. AWS has been helping customers build this strong foundation of data lakes. There are now tens of thousands of customers with AWS powered data lakes, and I myself have supported several nonprofits in getting started on their modern data architecture journey, building data lakes for various analytics and machine learning use cases. And why this becomes important, especially in AI applications, is because data is a differentiator. Because having access to quality data helps enrich and train our AI models to improve accuracy and add context to our responses. Let's talk a little bit more about security and scalability in the following slides. One of the most important deciding factors when our customers are choosing to implement generative AI applications in the cloud is security. Security, privacy, compliance. With AWS, customers are always in control of their data. Customer data is isolated per customer and remains in the AWS region where it was created, allowing for compliance with data residency requirements. Customers can also further secure their data by taking advantage of encryption and managing user access mechanisms. As for compliance, Bedrock supports several compliance regulations, even for state and federal government agencies that are running workloads on AWS today. And lastly, I wanted to touch on responsible AI just briefly. We could spend a whole day talking about this, but just to highlight a few key points, because generative AI applications are powerful and they're promising, and they also carry some risks that require awareness and careful actions. So Naeed and Miriam touched on this a little bit, but some risks include inaccuracies, sometimes referred to as hallucinations. Amazon Bedrock Guardrails is a feature in Bedrock that supports contextual grounding checks to detect and filter those hallucinations. Another risk may be bias, which refers to results that are skewed in favor of or against certain outcomes, often influenced by the quality and the quantity of the underlying data. So again, back to thinking about modern data architectures and how data is that differentiator, one way we can mitigate against that is by ensuring and maintaining high standards of data quality. And AWS has services for no-code and low-code data processing that make it easy to check data quality and process your data. Another thing that Miriam touched on as well is human in the loop. So this is a process where human oversight and input are integrated into these machine learning workflows. All this to say that AWS has years of experience with machine learning and AI, and we've gathered up all these best practices based on that experience so that you don't have to, and we can work together to achieve your security and compliance needs on the cloud. And we're constantly adding new features and services to help address these needs. Next slide, please. And scalability is another important feature that customers look for when moving to the cloud. They're thinking things like, how can I scale beyond just a single data center to support the growing demand of my organization? How can I reach people all over the world? And AWS customers can take advantage of the large global footprint of AWS, allowing them to scale compute resources up and down as they need and achieve high availability. In addition, customers take advantage of AWS's global infrastructure using services like Amazon CloudFront to deliver content with low latency to users all over the world, which was critical in supporting DFS's mission and making the impact that they have achieved thus far. Next slide, please. And finally, just want to wrap up with a few call to actions and how you can get started with AWS. As I'm sure you may be wondering by now, as a fellow nonprofit, how can you get started innovating? Well, we have two answers. First, check out our Imagine grant. Naeed mentioned this earlier. The Imagine grant is a public grant opportunity for any 501c3 organization based in the US and UK to apply to receive cash funding to pursue a cloud project. We're about to announce winners to 2024 winners in the next few weeks, and applications for 2025 will open in March. Second, as a nonprofit, you have access to an AWS account team for free. You can have an introductory conversation where we learn more about you, your mission, challenges, and have conversations about how we can see what cloud technologies might work for you. So first steps are just taking down these QR codes, and then we'll handle the rest. And with that, I'll pass it back to Naeed.
Thank you, Ariana, and thank you also for showing us how, AWS and the infrastructure makes, not only this tool but others possible as well. And also, thanks again for the continued support. Great. So, very quickly, last things before jumping into the Q&A. We have identified both challenges and exciting opportunities ahead. Not only technical challenges, but also opportunity to make GANNET even more impactful for humanitarian workers. So let me share what we are seeing on the horizon. First, we are tackling local and community data availability. While GANNET, of course, today excels at processing global data sources or those more common as Relief Web and others, we know that some of the most valuable information comes from local communities. So we are working on ways to integrate this local knowledge while, as Oriana was mentioning, maintaining data quality and privacy. Here, it's very crucial for us also to partner and to collaborate with local organizations that are having responses or programs in communities, and also kind of help us curate those different sources that can be added into GANNET. Looking at language understanding, we are also expanding GANNET's capabilities to work with more local languages. So imagine now that Sarah wants to analyze not only reports just in English, but also in Arabic and French. The good news is that we are now including these two languages on our data pipeline, and we're coming kind of, soon we'll be able as well to treat raw data, or let's say sources that are in Arabic and French as well. When it comes to adoption and sustainability, we are focused on making GANNET not just powerful, let's say, but also intuitive and accessible for humanitarian organizations of all sizes. Scalability for different contexts is key because we know that a response in Lebanon looks very different from one in South America, for example. We are also working on better understanding the relations among events, time, entities, which is something that happens with all these different data sets that are being managed or handled in the humanitarian sector. And also to help humanitarians workers to see not just what's happening now, but also how different crises and responses interconnect. And finally, we are strengthening our human feedback loop, as Ariana just mentioned, because at the end of the day, GANNET is a tool to augment and not replace human expertise in humanitarian response. Feedback is crucial, is key for us. So that's something that it's always in our strategy. And finally, these challenges excite us because each one represents an opportunity to make GANNET more effective in supporting humanitarian workers worldwide. And this is an invitation for those that wants to kind of join what we call the GANNET movement. On the left side, you have the QR code to sign up to the platform. You can start testing it, using it, and providing feedback. That will be very helpful. And on the right, you have a QR code just for those that want to sponsor or collaborate to our initiative. Yeah, and you can do that in that QR code. But yeah, with that, I think we can open it up now for questions and answers. And yeah, thanks again, Miriam, Ariana, and NetHope for coordinating this. So I will just open the floor for questions. And Ariana, over to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. So as Naeed mentioned, we're going to open it up to Q&A. I see some have already put some in the chat as I've been monitoring throughout the discussion. So we can start with the first one from Tanya earlier in the discussion. She had a question about cost for users, and she expressed that the GANNET tool would be very helpful for her and her organization.
Thanks, Ariana. Yeah, so in terms of cost and let's say sustainability, at the moment, we're envisioning a free tier where users will have access to the functionalities of the net with a limit in the number of prompts per day and per month. We have a paid or plus tier that we are at the moment kind of finalizing and hopefully will be soon in the system, where for those users that may want to have more prompts in a month or in a day, they will kind of just upgrade the plan and they will have access to it. And for those products or let's say organizations that want to have an enterprise tier or let's say more specialized or customized solutions, we are also able or open to have conversations with those organizations and see how GANNET can support their operations. But yeah, I hope I answered the question with that. Back to you, Ariana.
Awesome. And our next question is from Nicola, and they asked, what's the level of data availability? And by level, they meant geography, like as in community, neighborhood, etc.
That's a great question. So at the moment, I think we are also kind of exploring that, since we have this, let's say, well-known sources of data. Inherit, that's kind of the regions or the context that we are covering, the ones that are coming from there. Of course, we know that there are some small regions or other sources that will have probably more richful information for not the well-covered context or crisis. So we are in that process. If at any moment there is a specific use case or something, we are, again, open to collaborate with that organization and see how we can incorporate. Just as an example, for Sudan and Lebanon, we are including, as well as Miriam was mentioning, local sources to enhance the response from the system. So at any time, I mean, you can go into GANNET, go to the Explore functionality and dashboard, and then you will see how geographically distributed is the information today, but basically it's inherent to the sources that we are kind of putting in the rack system as currently. But yeah, that's the answer to that one. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another question that asked, what is the AI tool that you're using for data collection?
Okay, we are not collecting data. We are collating data or gathering data. And in, let's say, under the hood, we are using Bedrock from AWS, and we are testing different, let's say, foundational models. So with Bedrock system, we have this opportunity to use different of them. But yeah, just to remark, we are not collecting, we are collating or aggregating the data. And then two processes happen. One, we vectorize that information, which means we kind of take every single report or needs assessment or news from the media, vectorize it so the machine can kind of go and look for those pieces of information that are relevant or chunks. That's the first process. So we have an embedding there. And the second is on the other part of the rack system, kind of the foundational model to create the answer. So it takes kind of this enhanced context for the query and then replies with that. So we are having Bedrock as kind of our source in this case, and we are always testing different options inside Bedrock. I don't know if I answered the question with that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And along those lines, we did have another question just pop up about which specific foundation models.
Yeah, so we are using at the moment Anthropic. It's a more used one. We have as well tested Titan and yeah, GPT, but for as of today, since security and everything compliance inside Bedrock, we are using Anthropic and as a provider for our system.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think the last question in the chat was from Kiko saying it's amazing to source so much public data for context in hard to reach locations and across multiple languages. And how is Save the Children and other partners verifying quality and veracity? Any reflections on the human feedback loop? So I'll pose this to Miriam if you want to answer first, and then I'll have Naeed address it from the DFS side as well.
Sure. I'll start from Save the Children's side. So what's nice about GANNET is that once we ask our questions, once we prompt, the data that we receive also has the source of the data. So this is one good thing that we usually check. So whenever you want to validate the data and ensure there's no hallucination, we look into the source of the data to see if this is actually relevant or not. And then we try to triangulate it like we do with other type of data that we have or type of evidence. We try to triangulate it with other data that is already available in our evidence generation database to ensure that this is accurate and it makes sense. Most of the time, the source of the information is there. So in case we need additional clarification, we go back to it and check if anything else is needed. But what has been good as well while working with data-friendly spaces is that data-friendly spaces had one data analyst that was doing the first layer of the validation, and then once we were looking, for example, at the situation report or doing our own prompting, we were also ensuring that the data available is accurate and true, like we do with any other evidence that is usually collected. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you, Miriam.
quickly on my end. Thanks, Miriam. Yes, I think that yes, I think there are two main streams. The first one is yes, human in the loop, and having that, as Miriam just mentioned, team of analysts not only on the DFS side but as well on Save the Children, kind of reviewing everything that we are kind of collecting or generating out of the platform is key, and that's why I kind of highlight the human in the loop, but also the feedback that we receive, just to make sure. I mean, it's not a perfect tool, so we always may need to kind of double check and do some quality control. The other kind of stream is in terms of local sources. Yes, we are in the process of ingesting those, but again, it's crucial for us, since probably we are not responding on site or in the field to the crisis. We are not the ones kind of having the sole truth about those more valuable sources. So I would say it's kind of, yeah, not customized, but it depends on those specific use cases. So working hand in hand with the organizations, and again, this is the invitation to all of you to, if you have specific use cases, we can look at them and see what are those local sources that you want to add. We already have the data pipeline on place, and it's easy just to see, okay, in terms of languages or accessibility as well, to get data into GANNET, and then we can start working from there. But yeah, thanks, Miriam, as well.
Awesome. So I think those were the only questions we had in the chat. If there are other questions, feel free to contact us or include them in the chat. But I think I'm going to hand it back over to Seth to close us out. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you so much. This was truly a mind-blowing presentation today. Thank you for bringing this important topic to the NetHope community. And remember that this webinar series needs your voice. When the Zoom window closes, a new window will open with our webinar satisfaction survey. And this is your chance to also get in touch with the presenters today if you'd like to follow up with them. And speaking of follow-ups, that follow-up email is coming your way in the next few hours with links to the webinar recording, the slides, and other resources shared during today's presentation and discussion. And on behalf of our presenters and NetHope and the broader NetHope community, wish you a great rest of your day wherever you are in our wide world. Thank you so much. Take good care. Bye-bye.